Arsenal won, Chelsea won away at Stamford Bridge in the Premier League. Despite having the advantage of an extra man for the majority of the match, a draw it is, 1 point apiece. So there's lots to talk about, lots to discuss. This is the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal. This is Rav, your host as always. How is everyone? Today I'm recording this on a rainy Monday morning here in Melbourne, Australia. The match finished a few hours ago, 3:30 a.m. kickoff. So it's another tough one, another early start. And I'm feeling a bit bleary-eyed, a bit tired this morning, but I have plenty still to say on this match because there's certainly a lot to unpack. A very feisty match as well. Lots of spicy tackles. There's a fair bit of rivalries between the two teams already. This is even beyond being first and second place in the Premier League. Just Arsenal and Chelsea just historically don't like each other, and I can certainly subscribe to that. I dislike Chelsea. I'll get to some reasons in a moment, but I want to beat them. I don't like them, and it would have been great to go there and do them this morning. But look, it is what it is. A draw is probably a fair result in the grand scheme of things. So look, there's a fair bit to tackle. For audio listeners, don't worry. I will read out the structure for you on screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the rundown list. I'm going to cover the topics of that. I feel a draw is a fair result in this match. I'm going to cover Arsenal being well below our best. I have to talk about that Caicedo red card. I mean, there's plenty to discuss around that. Overall, there's a big question mark that you can ask. Was this a missed opportunity? Was this 2 drop points or 1 point gained? I will discuss that further, and then I'll finish off on just rounding off the bigger picture of what this match represents for Arsenal. So look, right off the bat, let's get into the lineup. Perhaps there was an unexpected absence. William Saliba picked up a knock during training. I believe Arteta referred it. I think he said it's a training injury. We seem to have a few of them that creep up from time to time. It's unfortunate. It just seems to be the flavour of Arsenal of late. We are starting to see players return. I mean, all of a sudden, you look at the bench just from midweek against Bayern and again today. You look at the additions back on the bench, Gyökeres and Jesus. Gabriel Jesus is back now in the matchday squad this morning. That's a huge moment. Yeah, it's massive for him and massive for the club, of course. But unfortunately, it kind of gets compounded or perhaps a bit overshadowed. The fact that we lost Trossard midweek despite a fantastic win against Bayern, and then Saliba going down. So all of a sudden we've got Gabriel and Saliba out. It's been a long, long time since Arsenal have fielded a lineup in the Premier League without either one of them. I believe I saw a stat, was it 150 matches, 150 appearances? In fact, it might be more. I may have got that wrong. I'm sorry. But it's been a long, long time, a long, long time. And you look at the quality is there, of course, but you just can't replace Saliba. You can't replace Gabriel. You look at that set piece where we conceded to, and I think many of you can probably sense the same feeling that I'm about to say, that I don't think that goal is allowed with Saliba or Gabriel. I think we're so good at set pieces, as we know, but defensively as well, we have that aerial presence that just dominates that box. Like, we have an aura about us. Like we command that space. That's the word. We command that space between Raya, between his twin towers, Saliba and Gabriel. We just have that area covered, and we give very, very little away. This is not to take anything away from Hincapié or Mosquera, who I thought were overall fine. I mean, in a match of this temperature, of this heat, I mean, they were a bit nervous at times. Then again, can't really blame them. It's the first time that they've been paired together. Out of all the matches for them to be paired together as a centre half partnership, it would have been great to do this in a cup match. It would have been great to give them that run against Brighton or Port Vale in the Carabao Cup, or upcoming against Crystal Palace in a few weeks' time. But this is not the Carabao Cup. This is not this is not the FA Cup. This is the Premier League. This is first versus second. So we had them deployed together, and understandably, they had some moments. We looked a bit shaky, looked a bit vulnerable at times. Chelsea got in behind and over the top a few times. Well, of course, our fullbacks were the same, Calafiori and Timber. But then in that second half, when Lewis Skelly came on, and I can only presume that was because Arteta was quite uncomfortable being at halftime with three defenders of your back four, three of them being on a yellow. And we'd already seen us hold the advantage with Chelsea down to 10 men. He didn't want to take any risks or chances. So unfortunately then, so soon in the second half, Lewis Skelly gets a yellow, and that was really needless. Even Calafiori's actually was needless yellow cards. I'll talk more about that. In a little segment I have about the referee, because the way he was handing out cards, I think it really impacted the flow of our game. But the point I'm just trying to round off here is that we fielded a pretty inexperienced back three. When I say inexperienced, I mean in terms of together. A back four, actually, because it's the first time that I can recall that we've deployed that back four. And I get it, injuries are just a part and parcel. Every team has to encounter them. Everyone does. But there was just a general lack of cohesion amongst Arsenal today. And no doubt, absolutely no doubt, we were below our best as a result. We just didn't have those little relationships, the experience that you have that can only really come with match sharpness of players playing together, getting into that rhythm, the way they communicate, the way the spaces they occupy, the little 1-2s, the give and goes. You can't manufacture that. Like, you can't replicate that on the training field. Only match simulations really give you that benefit. Arsenal, unfortunately, we were just we just, I don't think we deserved the win. I don't think I'm being outlandish in saying that. Sure, I would have loved the win. I would have loved the victory. I would have loved 3 points here. We probably just didn't do enough to actually warrant it. And what's really important, at the other end of the spectrum, depending which angle you look at, glass half full or glass half empty, it's really important not to lose this match. I understand that there's a general sense of frustration. I was frustrated too with thinking, geez, we had 60 minutes or so at Chelsea with 10 men and we didn't win the game. I can understand there's a sense of frustration. However, for me, the greater importance was to not lose this match. Don't forget, the onus is on Chelsea. They are chasing us. One of the many privileges of being first and leading the pack is that the others, they have to hunt you down. They have to chase you. So had Arsenal lost this match, had we conceded 3 points to Chelsea and the lead over them cuts down from 6 to 3 points, that would have been the worst case scenario in terms of the outcomes going into this match. We held them at bay. We held them off. We negated them away at a very tough ground to go against a very good team. By the way, they're an emerging threat, Chelsea, as they should be. What they've spent, $1.5 billion. So they really should be. But we kept them at bay and we've maintained our lead over them. And yes, I know City won, but it's okay. We got 5 points on them. So in the grand scheme of things, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit here. I'm giving more conclusive thoughts in terms of the bigger picture. Okay, I understand that there'll be questions asked and there'll be regrets, and you can even see it amongst the players post match. They'd be scratching their heads, thinking, "Damn, maybe we could have won this one," and we could have. Very late on, that header, that Timber, look, I can't blame him for it, right? He scored with his head against Bayern Munich this week, so instinctively, of course, he's going to go for that header. But right behind him, he wasn't to know that Gyökeres was steaming in, and I think Hincapie's ball is actually, I think it's intended for Gyökeres, not Timber. And look, it is what it is. It happens. It happens. We blazed a couple of shots over, but so did Chelsea. Esteval, for example, there was a few chances that they didn't test Raya that much. We had a few shots that Sanchez has made some good saves. So, overall, both teams could sort of rue some missed opportunities, some missed chances. So I think in terms of otherwise the lineup, it largely took care of itself. I think it was too soon to start the likes of Odegaard and Gyökeres or Jesus. It's great to have them in the squad, but they were never going to start this. I think within the group, there's some tired-looking players, but the lack of alternatives in a match like this, and players don't want to sit out. I mean, I don't think the likes of Rice or Zubimendi, Mikel Merino, Saka, they're not going to put their hands up and say, hey, Mikel, I think I'm okay this one. Why don't I sit on the bench and start someone else? No, they want to play these matches. This is what footballers want. The desire, the mentality, they want to be playing these really big matches. So over the course of the match, though, as it wore on and on into that second half, we just looked tired. Like, I think fatigue took over. Maybe it was just one game too much in terms of this lineup in this week. Of course, it's been a huge week for Arsenal. We've overcome every challenge so far, and how we have emphatic wins over Bayern Munich and then the North London derby last weekend, and heading into this match away at Chelsea. Maybe there was just an understanding within the group that, look, one more big performance from you guys and we can, I'm not saying we're going to like take the foot off the pedal or ease off or anything, but the next match is against Brentford at home at the Emirates midweek. And with all due respect to them, I'd like to think now we have the squad, the capability within the squad to sit down a couple of players and start the likes of maybe it's Norgard or maybe it's Madueke. Odegaard might be ready for a start against Brentford. So perhaps there was an understanding within the group that, hey, let's just get one last huge result, and we'd like to think that we have what it takes within the squad, within the players available to still go out there, rotate 3 or 4 changes midweek and win over Brentford. I don't know. Look, over the course of the match, we just started to look more and more tired. I think credit where credit is due. And maybe I should have said this earlier. I think Chelsea are actually quite good, as much as I don't like saying that, because I do not like Chelsea. I just don't. I just don't like the way that they have conducted themselves over many, many years. And maybe every football fan is quite righteous about thinking that the way, maybe we bias in our righteousness too, thinking that our club does things better and we do things, a certain classier way. I don't know. I mean, Arsenal are certainly not perfect. Some of the decisions we've made, I've spoken about at length and been I've criticised before. So we're certainly not perfect. However, if there was a scale of conduct and behaviour and just values and the way teams get to where they are, I'd imagine many would have Chelsea quite high or quite low, depending on your angle on that scale. The way they conduct themselves. I mean, there's just some classic things that go on at that club that it doesn't surprise me. It's like, yep, that's just a Chelsea thing to do. Even when, a couple of years back, that Enzo Fernandez, when he recorded himself, him and his Argentinian teammates chanting what I can't remember the exact nature of. I'm not going to repeat the slurs, of course, but they were homophobic in nature, xenophobic, racist in nature, and then what I mean? It's just the type of thing that you see them do and get away with, and then just the next match they appoint him match day captain, and selling hotels amongst each other, and just the way that they got to where they are from 2004 onwards. I mean, I didn't really know many Chelsea fans in and around Australia and Melbourne in my early. I've been following Arsenal since the mid-90s. But in that early decade or so of following Arsenal, I didn't really come across many Chelsea fans. But then from the mid-2000s onwards, as they start to win stuff and, they're right at the top of the tree, all of a sudden I'm coming across, all these overnight Chelsea fans. And it's like there's a certain arrogance and a certain entitlement to the way they conduct themselves, the way they behave. And I just don't like them. I'm glad that Arsenal have had the wood over them over many years. We've had an excellent record. We haven't lost at Stamford Bridge in many, many years. I've watched many a time that Chelsea beat up on Arsenal and they bullied us around. And boy, have they rubbed our nose into the dirt as well over in big matches. Remember Arsene Wenger's 1000th match? I will never ever forget that. Watching that in Bangkok, it was just something that just stays with you for a long, long time. They've done a lot. They caused a lot of pain to Arsenal over the years. It's been great to win a couple of FA Cup finals over them as well. But then again, there was that Europa League loss, and just Chelsea they don't really go away. Even when finally Abramovich was sanctioned and had to leave Chelsea and they had to purchase new owners. And then you see the way the new ownership has come in and conducted themselves and the way they can just spend and bend the rules as they always have. And here they are again, and they're on the rise. And again, as you'd expect, when you spend that level of volume of money, you should be competing for major trophies. Anything but doing that is an utter failure. And here they are again. And that Caicedo red card, let's get on to that for a moment. That was absolutely disgusting, absolutely pathetic. How he has rolled and rolled around on the ground when he knew what he did. Merino is lucky that he hasn't got a broken leg or a broken ankle. Mikel Merino was very, very lucky. We should consider ourselves fortunate that not only has he escaped a severe injury, but that he's even managed to continue in that match. That is a shocking tackle, absolutely shocking. Thoughts and prayers with Moises Caicedo. Please spare your thought. Please give him your thoughts. Spare a thought for him because his studs were assaulted by Mikel Merino's ankles. I'll say that again. It was embarrassing the way he rolled around. It was just pathetic to see a grown man conduct himself that way and behave that way. And then amazingly, just a few moments later, he was up. He was walking around. Miracle. And that look on his face, that what, me? What are you talking about? I didn't do anything wrong. When Anthony Taylor's brandished that red card, it was pathetic. He's absolutely a Chelsea player through and through. Sure, he's one of those players that when he plays for your club, you absolutely love him and you wouldn't have it any other way. But that's a nasty footballer. He's a great footballer, amazing. Would have loved him at Arsenal. Remember when we pushed hard for him a couple of seasons ago? Would have loved him. However, just the way he conducts themselves in terms of character, integrity, no thank you. I wouldn't want that representing the Arsenal shirt. No, thank you. That was really pathetic, the way he behaved, and deserved a red card. And it's not often that I get too animated or too worked up because I'm quite often watching in bed. I need to keep my emotions together and manage that and not lose my mind too often. And the fact that it's so early in the morning, I'm quite bleary, I'm quite tired. I still am. But when that happened and I saw that, I was losing my mind. I may or may not have mouthed off a few F words and telling him where to go. Thankful that no one heard that because my son was close by at the time. Thankfully, I didn't wake him up or wake anyone else up. But I gave, let's just say this, I gave Caicedo a sending off. And I wasn't particularly proud of what I said. Such is the passion of following Arsenal. I consider myself a pretty measured individual otherwise and try to keep my composure at the best of times. But when it comes to football, when it comes to Arsenal and moments like that, yeah, so certain things take over. But anyway, the red card happened and it was deserved, absolutely deserved. From then onwards, though, the question mark that understandably can be raised is, did Arsenal do enough to go and win it? Now, here's the side issue I want to talk about when discussing cards. I don't think Anthony Taylor managed the temperature of this match very well. He really brandished the yellow cards. I think he was kind of committed because he'd given one or two already and the tackles were still flying in left, right and centre, that he kind of just felt compelled to keep brandishing the yellow cards. Now, that has a compound effect. I've already touched on it before. When we get to halftime, and we've had so many early bookings, including Zubimendi, we've got 3 defenders on yellows. I think we ended up with 5 yellows. Was it 6 yellows? I think within the group, there was a message galvanized that do not do anything stupid. Do not do anything silly. Don't get a red card. We cannot allow that. That will be unacceptable. So when there's that edict amongst the group, human nature is you're going to be a bit more cautious. You're going to play a bit more within yourself. And I really think that impacted the way Arsenal played. I wouldn't say we went through the motions. I'm not saying that at all. We still had a red hot crack and we created many, many chances. But there was a sense of just we must remain with 11 on the pitch and try and nick something late. And the plan almost came off. It almost did. I don't think the substitutions necessarily worked. I understand why Arteta needed to make the change at halftime. Calafiori wasn't at his best. I mean, many of them weren't really in that first half. He didn't need to get booked in that one. This is where just a bit more composure was needed because he saw the cards being brandished already. He saw that the trigger happy nature of the referee. And he didn't need to make that lunge. Now, if that was unnecessary, I've got to just talk about Lewis Skelly for a moment as well. I'm sure the message from Arteta at halftime would have been, look, go out there, do your thing, right? And he would have been aware of the reason that we needed to make the change so we don't have 3 defenders on a yellow. And what does Lewis Skelly do? He himself got himself booked, and that was needless. I think they showed any sideline reaction of Arteta or any of the other coaches to that tackle or to that moment. But if they did, I can imagine he would have been losing. He would have been like, what the hell? Why did you do that? So it was one of those games. We just couldn't really get going for large periods of time. And that's a combination of number of injuries and the changes, the lack of cohesion in the team, tiredness, and the fact that Chelsea were good. So all those three things together, I think it's okay just to sometimes say, look, you can say it's a missed opportunity, you can say all that, yeah, sure, but we're not going to win every match. And Chelsea were good, and they were really up for this one. They're a young emerging team. The leaders are coming into town. People want to step up and have a crack, and that's just something Arsenal need to get used to, and we are getting used to that. That we saw it against Sunderland as well, right? There's a spring in the step of players. There's that intensity in the crowd, the atmosphere. Arsenal are a big ticket in town. And so far, we are managing these moments. We're managing them okay, because just a year or two ago, we probably would have lost this match. A year or two ago, we would have lost at Sunderland. Remember, we came down from behind at halftime against Sunderland, played incredibly well for 20-25 minutes to go ahead. And then, unfortunately, we tapered off towards the end, and they got a deserved equaliser in the end. So not too long ago, that would be 0 points. But this current Arsenal, this current 2025 version of Arsenal, we've ground out 2 points, and that is so crucial. Just in times gone by, right, we wouldn't have been able to do this. We've learned from our lessons. We've learned from past experiences. 2 points is crucial in the grand scheme of things. So it means City's deficit, instead of it being 3 points and just one win away from being equal with Arsenal, we've got that buffer. And each and every time we need to just keep banking the points, move on. When we go to these tough grounds, we've already ticked off a few already, actually, now that I think of it. It's Liverpool away done, Newcastle away, now Chelsea away, Sunderland, a very good team. Next weekend, we go to Aston Villa. I probably missed one. Yeah, Old Trafford, of course, on the opening day. How could I forget? These are difficult places to go and maximise points. But overall, our record amongst that group of fixtures, I know we lost against Liverpool, but we won at Old Trafford, won at Newcastle, and it's okay. And we've kept Chelsea out today from having the chance to close the gap to on Arsenal. So it's okay overall, quite okay in the grand scheme of things with this result. Sure, I would have loved a win, but in the grand scheme of things, this is fine. Remember, the Invincibles drew 12 matches in that epic season, right? So as long as we don't go to these places and lose, I think that's the real important thing. A few seasons ago, Arsenal lost that match against Aston Villa. It wedged in between the two Bayern Munich ties. And all of a sudden, it derailed us on both fronts, in both competitions. In the space of a week or so, our season was derailed. And I remember Rice speaking very openly after that. He said along the lines of, that we need to learn that if you can't win the match, just make sure you don't lose it. Just bank that point and move on. And we have learned. We've been learning our lessons since. So overall, despite not being at our best, we still come away with a draw. And maybe that in itself is a mark of a good team. Arsenal are a good team. I mean, we know this. We're a damn good team. And to be below standard and still not lose the match, perhaps that's another way. So that's a reframe of this question mark that you may have. Yeah, but they were down to 10 men and we should have won. Sure, I can understand if you subscribe to that theory. But also at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, remember, the onus was on Chelsea to win this match. And even though we were vulnerable, we were shaky at times, we had injuries, absences, not the usual cohesion, we've still kept them out and we've still drawn the match. And I think some players, there were some pivotal performances in that second half that led us to do it. I think Rice was excellent, as he always is. I thought Saka grew into the match. He got the better and better of Cucurella over time. That was just there was just a beautiful passage of play that Bukayo strung together, coming in on the right, dancing left, dancing right. The way he cut in, it was a beautiful cross. Mikel Merino, he's a big time player. How many big goals has he scored? He's just an excellent header of the ball as well. And it was an excellent moment for him. I mean, he's a genuine option. Even though he's not a traditional number 9 or a genuine number 9, he's just a genuine option there because he scores goals. In the second half, I don't think the substitutions necessarily worked. It was great to see Odegaard come in and do his thing, and he was stretching the play. In fact, he was heavily involved in that passage of play where we scored with Bukayo. He's a bit off the boil today. He's had a big week as well, not quite as influential as usual. So I think the change was, what was the shift in formation there? That's right. So Gyökeres came on for Eza and Merino's dropped back into midfield or like a second striker playing off Gyökeres. And it didn't quite work. This is just something we're going to have to get accustomed to again. Gyökeres is a lower touch. He's not as heavily involved in build-up play, link-up play as the other options are, but we're missing them. Yes, Jesus is back, but Havertz is still a long-term absentee. And Mikel Merino has been playing a lot of minutes lately. We must watch that. So look, it's just one of those things that sometimes it doesn't entirely go your way. And to come away, though, to still salvage a draw in matches like this, that in itself is a milestone. That in itself is a marker of a good team. So don't despair too much, Arsenal fans. I'm quite content overall with this. I've already covered all the reasons why in terms of the bigger picture. So hopefully this has helped you as well. If you are listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe or leave me your comments. Let me know, what do you think? Have I got it right? Have I got it wrong? I would love to hear from you. And if you're listening on audio platforms, please follow the show. Leave me a 5-star review. It really does help the visibility and engagement of the podcast. So huge match midweek coming up against Brentford. I'll be back on and hopefully we can bank the 3 points there and onwards we move. So look after yourselves. Stay well, everyone. Check in with your loved ones and come on, Arsenal.